everyone, I'm Trisyia. Today I'll be sharing with you guys my study approach that helped me secure a 4.0 GPA for every exam while I was in college. It took me a while to find out what apps suited my likings and preference for studying, but after a whole semester of college, I finally came down to a list of my favorites, and here they are. Coming at number 1, we have GoodNotes 5. Number 2, we have Notability and Keynote. Number 3, we've got Pages, an Apple app. Number 4, Google Calendar. And lastly, Notion. I'm going to quickly break down my reasons and basically explain how I use these specific apps to you guys. If you don't want to hear, you can skip, timestamp down below. First, we have GoodNotes 5. It's a major note-taking app. I love it, but what I use it for is for self-studying notes. Means I don't use it during lecture. I use it if I want to revise a material and I want to break down the content, make it into my own notes for my own understanding. I will use GoodNotes 5. There's a lot of features on GoodNotes 5 that is very useful for note-taking. For instance, the first thing when you open, you see this beautiful, just simple, clean layout of files. And then when you click semester, we have all the subjects I'm taking, and then when you click on the subject, we have all the files according to the index. Every subject I have a different approach for taking notes, so if you want to know how, you can skip on that later in the video. But what's interesting about GoodNotes 5 is the options of papers. Obviously, I don't use GoodNotes 5 anything but note-taking. So I use a lot of the writing papers and the essentials. My favorite are squared paper, the blank, legal, and Cornell. Next up, we have Notability, and I paired it up with Keynote with a reason. So Notability is basically a fantastic filing system. Therefore, I will file all my lecture slides into Notability. Except before I transfer those lecture slides into Notability, I will first convert those slides on Keynote. Now the reason is because Keynote is a presentation app and there is an option for you to print the slides. But before you print, there is also another option to choose how you want to print those slides. There are a lot of options. You can also print it horizontally, vertically. I like this because from here, you can actually choose any of those and then convert your preferred one to Notability. Now, my favorite option format is the 3 lecture slide in a page with a bit of space at the side for me to jot down notes while my lecturer is teaching at the front. Now, focusing on Notability, the features, I like it when you first open the app. It's this very structured and just minimal, clean looking layout. So at the side, usually I have all my major subjects, and then when you press the toggle list, and then you have like mini subtopics, if you know what I'm saying. I kind of use Notability for like filing system. So it's not really a major note-taking app. Sometimes I will take notes, but the notes I take during lecture lah. Other than lecture slides, I also use Notability to compile exercises that my lecturers want ataupun latihan from past year exams. Pages. I use Pages only for typing down my lab reports. That is all. And then we have Google Calendar. I wouldn't recommend as of now because I've shifted to Apple Calendar. It's quite similar, but there's a marginal difference. What's good about Google Calendar in terms of studying is that you can calendar block your exams, your tests, and quizzes. If you're a college student, then you will know the difference. So I had a lot of tests and quizzes all the time. Like sometimes I would have 5 quizzes and 2 tests in a week. So there will be pop-up reminders from time to time. And for Google Calendar, I like to view it as monthly rather than weekly or daily. I took 4 subjects during college, Sem 1 and Sem 2. Every subject had a different colour to block on the calendar. Having these colours figured out, it helps you to organise, and when you just look at it, you're like, oh okay, so minggu depan banyak kuning, banyak quiz untuk chemistry. I also don't write chemistry quiz. Instead, for the title of the event, I will put the initials of the subject. So for example, if it's chemistry, I'll have it in C. If it's biology, B. Slight change in the location, hope you guys don't mind that. But last on the list we have is Notion. Now I wouldn't really recommend this if you baru start college because it does take some time to familiarize with the whole setup of Notion. Well, at least it took me 2 semesters to finally know how to work Notion. And if you don't have an iPad, you have a laptop, you want to type your notes, I think Notion is the best. It's free and it's accessible, especially for students. I used Notion during SEM 2 pun, not for studying. I used it for personal reasons like personal planning, and now because I have all the ample time, I'm utilizing it to the fullest. I have my Notion here, by the way, that's why I'm looking at it. Let's get this video to 2002 likes and I will make a Notion tour with an iPad tour. Alright, so the next part of the video I want to discuss about my learning process. So there's 3 I've broken down. First we have during lecture, self-studying and group studying. For lecture we have the pre-lecture, during lecture and the post-lecture. Pre-lecture, what I would do is I would make sure that a night before all the slides have been converted on Keynote and arranged and organized on Notability. That way when I enter lecture, senang. During lecture, what I would do is conteng dekat sebelah tu and make sure I jot down everything that my lecturer say. If there's anything on the screen or on the whiteboard, I will make sure I'll snap it. I don't tulis sebab lambat. Lectures are very fast paced, so I came up with this symbol system. Pretty sure a lot of people use this as well, except I came up with a system. I don't even know. Post-lecture, what I would do is first go through the contents that I didn't quite catch up during the lecture. Masa I letak the question mark ataupun the double bar thing, kalau benda tu susah sangat, I terus cari kawan untuk nak discuss. It's a lot faster than to sit on your own and understand everything. For self-study, first it starts with me reviewing the lecture slide A to Z. I won't miss a thing. So when I take my notes, there's another system. This is all made up, okay guys? This is like, I just name things to system because, I don't know. It's easier when you have everything organized. And then once I have all the notes ready, malam tu or like right after, I will buat tutorial. Tutorial basically is latihan lah. Lastly, on the learning process, we have the study group. I like to keep my options wide, means I don't just stick to a particular group. I change from time to time. And it's also very important that you choose the right friend. If you tahu kawan tu jenis yang main, cakap banyak and you kind of want to focus, I don't suggest just you choose them as to be part of your study group. So I guess be firm with your choices and don't be embarrassed to say no. It's about time we talk about my note-taking system for every subject. But before I unload that, I do want to give like a useful reminder, I hope, to anyone who's about to explore the world of note-taking, and that is to be very open with note-taking. Don't restrict yourself to the standard note-taking. By that I mean the very aesthetically pleasing ones that you see on Pinterest. I feel like notes should be a very you, and if you refer to your notes a lot, means it is effective. I've encountered many cases where in class, tiba-tiba nak buat note, macam tak tahu nak buat apa. Betul, nanti conteng-conteng je. Lepas tu, dah conteng-conteng, I won't refer to that conteng-conteng sebab serabut. Figure out like a note-taking system and stick to it. So also figure out what are your study pet peeves. For example, I don't like flashcards. I don't think it's useful while I was in college, and I love relying to modules. Some people like to rely on YouTube or like online resources, but I like to refer to the university ataupun whatever that has been provided by my lecturer. I like to refer to that solely. I won't buy revision books unless if it's necessary. I will use the lecture slides whatever materials from the lecturer. I will buy if I realize that I am struggling, and after getting consultation from my lecturer and she suggests like this book and that book, baru I beli. This is what my physics notes for semester 2 look like. I will be explaining links on how I take my notes in my next video, so be sure to look out for that. These papers were purchased from Shopee. I'll leave a link to everything you see down below, so make sure you check it out. Here's an example when I mentioned earlier about sticking to a note-taking system. This is what my notes look like when I first started college. And then here is towards the end of semester 1 when I figured out my note-taking system. This is the module I used for chemistry given to me by the college. Because I was studying organic chemistry, there were a lot of memorization involved, hence the mind maps. Here's a quick look into how I implement Cornell method on some of my chemistry notes. Of course I print my notes, except I only print a certain sum, and those sum are the ones that I tend to forget. And in this case of chemistry, obviously organic chemistry notes, and so you see a lot of mind maps. At the far left corner of the paper, you see paper clips or clippers. I like to clip them into places instead of putting them into files because it's easier for me and I know that I can sort it by topics. So you can also use files if you don't like to use paper clips, whatever floats your boat. You can see the note structures vary from a page to another because, like I said, I don't print all my notes. I only print those that I have to memorize. And not everything is from digital ink. I will practice handwriting as well because chemistry involves a lot of memorization and I need to practice. I like to print my notes because it's easier to refer when I'm studying rather than having it on my iPad notes. Here are some other note-taking structures for chemistry. Not everything is in the form of mind maps or Cornell method. These are just some random sketch on the topic chemical equilibrium. Here's a glance of heading system, which I will explain in my next video. I only get creative when I don't like that topic. Here I have statistics, which I didn't quite enjoy during semester 2. That's why you see it a little different from my normal maths note-taking structure. These were the only handwritten notes throughout semester 2. I do a lot of my notes for maths on my iPad. Handwritten notes are usually basic formulas because I needed to memorize them. I want to show you a little comparison of semester 1's notes when I wasn't using my iPad, the first book and the second book. The first book obviously started earlier during the semester. You can tell, no note-taking structure, but I still could understand. It's just that it's not neat at all. Now you wait for the little glow up. There you go. A lot more neater, a lot of color coding, a lot easier and pleasant to look at. And that's why I emphasize a lot on having a note-taking system or structure and stick to it till the end because it will benefit you a lot. Boom! Maths is not just about notes. You have to practice, and I did a lot of practice as well. Here is my practice file. I keep all my quizzes, my tutorials in here. Perhaps by showing you this, it will motivate you and encourage you to go do that latihan. Of course, maths is not easy, but it becomes easier if you practice. Also, just a very quick reminder, it's okay to make mistakes. You can tell I sure did made a lot of mistakes from the correction tapes and crisscrosses. Normalize it and don't be embarrassed, okay? I relied a lot on my module given by my college for studying biology and only made notes when I find the concept or topic a little hard to grasp on. For example, the topic reproduction. So you can tell a lot of my notes were from that topic. Now I'm saying this because I want to remind you that you don't have to actually spend time making notes for every topic. That's a waste of time. Only make notes when it's convenient for you, will you refer to that notes if you make it? If you don't and you prefer looking at the module, then look at the module. Don't make notes unnecessarily for the aesthetic or because of peer pressure. Like I said, nothing has to be aesthetic. Here is a rough sketch for other notes. Not everything is pretty like you saw earlier. But at the same time, try to keep your notes as easy to read, neat and clean as possible. It will definitely benefit you, and trust me on this. I only print my notes if I don't like that topic, and the only reason to this is because I want to look at it more often. That's why I have it on paper instead of my iPad. Because my biology exam involved a lot of writing, by that I mean essays, a friend of mine, his name is Sharafi, you would probably know him from my previous vlogs, but anyways, he prepared this essay compilation of semester 2's topic, which I found was very convenient at that time. This is very great, especially for those who are looking for active recall and spaced repetition. It's very concise and really relevant for a night before exam review. Of course, I didn't rely on this paper solely. In fact, I did a few fixes, you can tell by the correction tapes, and hopefully this serves as a great reminder to anyone that while relying to other people's notes may sound easier, but always remember that those notes were made for them, not for you. Means for you to understand it completely, I wouldn't say it's 100% attainable. So put in your own efforts into learning because it's fun and really enjoyable. And always remember, you're not always gonna make it, especially when you're learning. And it's okay, because that's the fun part of learning. You're gonna have your ups and downs. And when you fall, buck up. There's nothing to be embarrassed about, because trust me, the downfalls are what will contribute you to better learning process. So value it. Don't ever forget that fall. And if it wasn't for that 68, I wouldn't have improved drastically. In terms of my grades, my note-taking, I wouldn't have come up with ideas on how to improve my studies for biology. So always be grateful, regardless. Make sure you mark your latihan. Lepas dah mark tu, tulis markah. Even if it's out of 3. Like, if you dapat 3 out of 3, tulis 3 over 3. Little success are sources of motivation actually to keep you going. So if dapat teruk, it's okay. Sebab it brings me to my next point. This is sort of like spaced repetition. Make sure lepas macam around 2 weeks, you dah buat latihan tu, buka balik. Look at it again. Tengok apa yang salah. And that's why the mark is so important. So that you tahulah, oh ni markah paling teruk. I have to look at this. When you know what you're wrong, make sure you go see a teacher. But what I like to do is to refer to a friend first. Because I don't like to go to my lecturer empty-handed, I guess. When you go to your friend, there will be a few arguments raised and questions. So those are the things that are very valuable to bring to discussion with the lecturers. Next, buat cepat-cepat. Tak tahu tinggal. Like literally, this is like my principle. That's how I finish my work really fast. A lot of my friends always ask me like, wow, Trisyia cepat yang start kerja. It's because I buat cepat-cepat. Yang tak tahu I tinggal. Yang tinggal tu, I pergi cepat-cepat, jumpa kawan I, lepas tu I discuss with them. Make sure you know when is your study hour. Is it in the morning, like super early in the morning at 3? Is it at 9 a.m., 7 a.m? How to know when's your study hour? You gotta experiment it on your own. Means just try. Try staying up, try waking up early, try waking up after subuh. Waking up before subuh. Yeah, just experiment, literally. That's what I did. Depends on the subject. If I have to memorize a lot, then I bangun pagi-pagi when like everybody's like dead asleep. Ataupun I'll stay up. Stay up usually kalau I banyak kerja, like assignments and like, not assignments, I never stay up for assignment. I usually get my assignments done very quickly because I follow the buat cepat tak tahu tinggal principle. But usually macam kalau tutorials like latihan, yeah, that one I stay up. Make sure you have a study group. Study sorang-sorang penting, study group pun penting. Find a balance between the two. Always teach, always learn from another person. Doa. This should be first, tapi like it's a bit spiritual, so I thought I'd just leave it at the end. I did leave my favorite doa over my Instagram, so you can go over there and check it out and have fun at college. Really, Studying is studying, but make sure you make memories as well, because at the end of the day, you only experience college once.
If you need a love